Good morning from San Francisco and welcome to Sama's second quarterly learnings call. I'm Leila Toplik and I'll be your host this morning. And today we'll be sharing results and key learnings from Q2 for Samasource, Samaschool, and Samahope programs. And this is an update to what we shared on our last call in May, which you can access from the details section on this Google Plus page. If you'd like to ask a question or provide feedback during the call, please share with us via Twitter @SamaGroup using the hashtag SamaQ2Impact. And we look forward to hearing from you, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm here in San Francisco with several members of our leadership team, Lila Jana, Tony McDonald, Tess Posner, and Shivani Garg Patel. And now I'll hand things over to Lila Jana.
Great, thank you so much, Leila. I wanted to cover quickly why we're doing these calls and what to expect. So we're going to share recent data with you, both qualitative information and our quantitative data collection. I want to highlight that this is not a marketing call. This is not all good news. We're trying to present an accurate picture of what we've seen in the last quarter. We're doing this to open up our doors and make it easier to understand what we do and also to get feedback on our model to hopefully improve it. We'll share with you results from the field. So this data collection happens in the field by people that we have trained on staff, as well as enumerators that we've hired to go out and collect this data in survey form. The surveys happen both via the web and through in-person surveys that happen at the household level, and you can learn more about our methodology on our impact page at samagroup.co/impact. We'll also share what you can expect looking ahead from each of our programs. I want to highlight that Sama Group is one nonprofit. We're a 501c3, and we operate 3 different programs. We manage a separate P&L for each program, and each program has a leader. So we try to operate these programs as independently as possible to really understand the return on investment that donors get from each of these business models, but we're all part of one team and one organization. With that, I will just cover quickly what impact means as we've defined it in each program. So Samasource is our oldest program. We started it back in 2008. We connect marginalized women and youth to work over the internet. We define impact as the number of people we're able to move above the poverty line and keep there. And for us, we define the poverty line as a local living wage. So we actually look at living wage data from third-party sources and hire people who come in at below that wage and move them above it. Since we started, we have reached 6,794 workers who each have, on average, 3 to 4 income dependents. So those are all people who directly benefit from the income that Samasource work provides. Samaschool is a related program, also based on the mission of impact sourcing, that provides low-income people with the skills needed to access online work. We've reached nearly 600 students since we started the program as a pilot in 2013. And we define impact both as the number of people that graduate from Samaschool programs, and more importantly, the number of those people who see a positive employment outcome. And Tess will explain a little bit more what that means in her section. And lastly, Samahope is our third program. Samahope funds work of doctors who provide medical care for women and children in need across the developing world and also here in the US. We have reached almost 5,500 patients since we started in 2012, and we define impact as the number of patients treated. It can be very difficult to do patient follow-ups, years after the surgery, so we just look at treatment outcomes in the case of Samahope. Feel free to ask us questions about our methodology. With that, I will hand it over to Tony, our CFO, to talk more about Samasource.
Thanks, Lila. Before I get into the Q2 results and the numbers, I wanted to profile Faith, a former Samasource worker who has left us and is now working at a higher paying job supporting voice services at one of our delivery center partners. Faith is a very typical former worker, and I wanted to use her example as something that we are exploring within our measurement process, as her path is a really good example of what we see on average with our former workers, in that by the 3rd year, as we reported last quarter, by the 3rd year after leaving Samasource, our average former worker is earning 3.7 times the wage they had before they joined us. And one of the things that we are actively engaged in is to understand what is driving that continued progression with our average worker. Not only are we providing initial jobs, but we're seeing them continue to succeed and increase the benefits to their livelihoods. Faith's comments to us are a really strong indicator that it's not only the direct work experience that we find that she has gained from having a first formal job in a technology sector, it's also from the confidence that she's gained, the personal confidence. And I'll quote her. She told us, quote, "I was a shy person. I didn't believe in myself. I told myself that since I have little education, no one is going to listen to me. So my advice is work hard and see things in a positive way." We think that this is a prime example, a great example of what is driving the continued success. We're offering employment opportunities that the workers are relishing and navigating to improve their lives with. And obviously, as we go forward, we're going to continue to explore how to improve what we do to make that a stronger outcome. On to the highlights of our second quarter. I wanted to reemphasize the fact that in addition to measuring our return on our donor dollars to the increase in the average worker earnings, we also measure our impact to the active worker count and our new worker counts. In Q2, our active worker count was 30% short of our target of 777. And similar to Q1, this was driven by the fact that we had a revenue shortfall. The amount of volume demanded by our two largest accounts, our largest customers, fell below what we had forecasted and planned for. Now, we will talk a bit about this later, but we're actively working on and have secured additional projects and new customer demand that we expect to bring ourselves back to a higher level of volume. But for Q2, we were short of what we needed for our targets. Now, on our new worker count, we fell short 15% and a little bit lower shortfall, mainly driven by the fact that in late June, we started ramping up our new Samasource delivery center in Nairobi, and we hired actively to bring on board some people in the center. I'm happy to report that the center is performing above our expectations on quality and worker satisfaction, and we will continue to grow and hire for that center as we see the demand pick up in the next 2 quarters. On the types of projects and trends in work that we're seeing a significant increased demand and success in our machine learning and image annotation service offerings, which now make up over 40% of what we do. This kind of work, importantly, is supporting demands that artificial intelligence technologies are requiring for them to learn such applications as facial recognition and body recognition and self-driving car capabilities. And so we're seeing a strong demand in those technology requirements, and we're happy to report that our workers are very, very capable of delivering the kinds of work required to supply that demand. The other highlight for the quarter that I wanted to bring up is bringing the Samasource delivery center that we've started. What we found is that it's making a significant difference in us being able to scale up quickly and directly with some of our customers the work that they're requiring. And I'd like to highlight that we're very proud of saying that our Sama delivery center is safe and it's a secure facility, but also located in walking distance from a slum where our agents live. We also are working on providing 24/7 cafeteria and childcare support. So to keep going, for Q2, to mitigate some of the challenges, we're working on driving and continue to increase the amount of work that we're getting from our existing and new customers, and increasing the capabilities that our Sama delivery center can provide. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tess.
Thank you so much, Tony. I also want to start by sharing the story of one of our student graduates from Kenya. This story also highlights the awesome synergy between the Sama School and Samasource programs. Jerrioth, who you see pictured here, is 22 years old, and she graduated 2 years ago from high school and has been looking for work ever since. She supported herself through handicrafts and bead making, but she struggled to earn a sustainable living wage. She heard about Samaschool through a friend, and she joined the training through one of our partners in Kibera, a slum in Nairobi. She gained skills through our class, like web research and typing, but she told us that her biggest benefit from the class was the confidence gains to apply for formal work. And she interviewed and got a job at the Samasource delivery center. She eventually wants to move into her own apartment and invest in her passion, which is actually bead making. In the immediate term, she'd like to stay on the Samasource and eventually get a job with more responsibility. I wanted to highlight the awesome synergy between the two programs because as people like Jerrioth get jobs, Samaschool training is able to improve through looking at worker outcomes and getting feedback for how they're performing, which then goes back into how we develop and improve the curriculum. So now on to Q2 results. In our US program, we're falling close to 50% behind on our employment targets. In Kenya, however, we're seeing a positive trend that we're surpassing our goal by 6%. And just to give you a sense of what types of jobs students are getting, they've been successful in admin jobs, marketing, and data services, among others. So to address some of our low employment outcomes, we've actually paused on new classes in the US to focus on curriculum development and market research to drive the improvements to the model in the program. This is primarily why we're falling below in terms of our numbers trained target for the US. In Kenya, we rely heavily on our training partners that provide space and student recruitment, and so partner capacity issues have impacted our goal in Kenya. However, we're adding new partners all the time and focusing on partners that have the ability to scale with us. So as mentioned before, we're currently revising our US model to address these low employment outcomes that we've seen in the last 2 quarters. And after looking at over 2 years of data and talking with both experts and employers, we're making a few key improvements to the program that we're going to be rolling out in our fall classes in the US. These include both employer partners to help support job placement and alumni, as well as sector-specific skills training based on market research. We continue to also build partnerships with local resources to help address student barriers like transportation and childcare, mental health, and healthcare. And I'm thrilled to announce that we're actually going to be launching our new online classes in just a few weeks on August 25th. This training is a new part of our model, and it's fully online. It teaches students how to access opportunities and market themselves in the digital economy. We're really excited about this new model and its potential to reach thousands of people across the globe. It targets more advanced students that have access to the internet and may not need the individualized in-person coaching that we provide in our classroom-based model. We actually already have 200 students pre-registered from Europe, India, Africa, and the US. Interested students can already pre-register through the link you see here, and you can take the class itself both at a computer or on a mobile phone at your own pace independently. Once again, we're launching on October 25th. That's when we'll be officially opening up registration, and we'd love to have your help sharing this link and news with anyone that you think would be interested in this type of class. And now I'll hand it over to Shivani.
Thanks, Tess. As many of you know, on April 25th, Nepal was hit with a devastating 7.8 magnitude earthquake. Weeks later, another massive earthquake hit the country. While the media coverage was minimal, we were deeply impacted here at Samahope. 2 of our local medical partners in Nepal have over 20 years of on-the-ground experience, and we help them with training skilled birth attendants and enabling safe surgical care. Fortunately, all the local staff of our medical partners were safe, but entire birthing facilities and communities were destroyed, as you see in the picture here. These earthquakes took the lives of over 8,800 people, injuring tens of thousands of others. I'll share more on how the Samahope community came together to help in relief efforts a little later. Moving on to Q2 goals, in the first half of the year, we set out to fund treatments for over 3,000 patients. The result was funding treatments for 4,179 patients. This represented a 10x year-over-year growth from last year's numbers at the end of Q2. This growth was fueled primarily by investments in training and infrastructure programs, which provide leverage for donor dollar and scale of impact. In Q2, we also sought to grow with corporate partnerships. We were fortunate to expand our relationship with TripAdvisor and have engagement with employee groups at Google, IDEO, and hackathons via KCPB. At the end of Q2, we also saw geographical growth. Samahope is now operating in 11 countries globally, and we're helping to expand the capacity and capabilities of 19 doctors locally. Coming back to the earthquake in Nepal, we were proud and humbled to see the Samahope community come together. Within 24 hours, we were able to get our fundraising page up and had one of our anchor funders, Cigna, donate to that fund and have over 200 individual donors from the Samahope community contribute to raise over $35,000 in just a few days. These funds are enabling us to rebuild an entire damaged birthing facility in one of the hardest hit districts in Nepal. And we were able to provide emergency surgical care for hundreds of people who would otherwise be suffering from a life of disability. Additional highlights for the quarter include our expansion in India. We added 6 new partners around maternal and child health. We also were fortunate to receive media coverage in CNN, Christian Science Monitor, and Bloomberg West for our work. Some of the challenges that I'd like to highlight are around our patients. So we saw in particular in India, some of our patients, especially the children, have struggled to actually access the treatments that we've been able to fund due to transportation and school exam challenges. We are working with our local partners to address and help mitigate against these for our medical partners so that ensuring that these children receive the care that they need. We also had a number of campaigns running at the same time. With the Nepal earthquake running and our Mother's Day campaign and the Sama bus efforts, this dilution minimized our ability to focus. In terms of next steps, we are currently looking at long-term sustainable growth plans. And I look forward to sharing more with you next time we talk. Thanks, I'll hand it over to Layla now.
Great, thanks so much, team. Thank you for your updates. We'll now open up the floor for any questions, and also to kick off the Q&A, we've actually selected a handful of questions that were submitted to us over the past couple of weeks. And as a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, please share with us via Twitter at Sama Group using the hashtag SamaQ2Impact. In fact, we're going to actually go back to one of the slides or topics in Samasource and ask Tony if he could just talk through the next steps for Samasource in a bit more detail. Tony, we're going to scroll to the slides. Great.
So when it comes to the delivery center, and I think we wanted to reemphasize this, we are on track and actually ahead of schedule in bringing our own facility up to speed with our customers, and we're actually doing work right now ahead of schedule. The next step for us is to formally open the Samasource Delivery Center at the end of this month and continue to scale and invest in the plans to bring on more equipment and more workers greater than schedule for the end of the third quarter by September. It's important for us to note that this is a new model and in fact a flagship delivery center for the entire region and we feel for the world, in the sense that it's catering to impact source workers only and has all the requirements and facilities that we think will enable us to be the model for the rest of the world when it comes to serving impact sourcing populations. And what that means is we have facilities to be able to allow for training, and as I mentioned earlier, to be able to enable our workers, regardless of their socioeconomic background and status, family status, to enable them to work with us, which, as I mentioned previously, includes on-site childcare and food support, so that there's never an issue for them to be able to help and work with us. We're very proud of this, and we're also very excited with the support that we've received, particularly from the Dune Foundation in funding the startup of this operation. We continue to look for more support to make this happen, but it's a flagship moment for us, and we're very excited.
Great, thanks, Tony. We're going to go to our next question. It was submitted to us via email yesterday. It's from Kat Smith and for Lila. Lila, specifically, where do you see the new growth opportunities for Sama?
Great question. So I'd say that one of the criticisms of our work over the last years is a perceived lack of focus. I will readily admit that I'm an entrepreneurial person. We're an entrepreneurial team. We get excited about new opportunities to help people. And I'm really proud of the work that we did to bring Samahope to fruition, for example. But we do think that there is an opportunity to really focus in on our work in impact sourcing, which is where we've seen a lot of traction in the last year. And so we are going to be evaluating our model and probably making some announcements over the next 6 months about how we plan to emphasize that focus. So I would say that the big growth opportunities for us are thinking about how we can scale up the model of impact sourcing, how we can leverage the brand that we've built around impact sourcing and some of the tools we've created in training, in technology development through our platform, the Samahub, and in just brand awareness of this concept of hiring marginalized people into digital supply chains. Really specifically, we see a lot of growth opportunities with our Sama DC. And just to give some more context to that, so our work traditionally has been done by third-party partners because we didn't have the budget to build infrastructure in some of the areas that we work. And we already, we knew that there were pre-existing centers that had computers and internet access. Now that we've reached a certain scale and we have additional access to capital, per Tony's point, we've seen that there are some benefits to opening our own center. We can fully control the worker experience. We can do a lot of really creative things around impact reporting and measurement, and we can experiment with benefits like on-site childcare and paid food and transportation. So that's going to be a big focus for us, making sure that we have enough clients to stock that center and the right kind of capital structure for it, and deepening our client engagements so that we can be more sustainable through our earned revenue will be another core focus. This is not to say that the work of Samahope is not dear to us or really important, but we think there might be ways to structure our organization to ensure maximum benefit for Samahope patients, as well as a clear focus on impact sourcing through Samaschool and Samasource.
Thanks, Lila. Next question is for Samasource. So Tony, this question is from Spandana saying, and it's a two-part question. First, how do you determine where to locate Samasource outsourcing operations? And then second, how do you onboard the outsourcing centers around the world, including convincing them to integrate the Samahope technology?
So that's a great question. So we typically have evaluated the locations of where we have outsourcing centers based on demand, but also based on the strength of the partner network and the communities that we are involved with. I can say, for example, that we've recently opened a new relationship with a provider in Kampala, and I think the selection process of that was because we felt that there was mission alignment and particularly a strong presence in the local community for us to support that engagement. As far as the onboarding process, we have a very strong team on the ground that supports delivery center operations that were instrumental in making sure that the mission alignment and the understanding of our process to qualify workers, to measure the workers, to measure the outcomes is embedded in their operations. And in general, what we find is all of our partners are very much mission aligned with what we're trying to do and are very supportive in that. And when it comes to the hub technology, frankly, the hub technology allows us to scale and service the workers the most efficient manner. And so in general, but not always, but in general, none of our partner operations have any issues with the hub adoption.
Thanks, Tony. Next question is for Samaschool. So Tess, the question is regarding the new partners, and how do you specifically choose the new partners for Samaschool?
That's a great question, thanks. Partners are really important to the work that we do. And we partner with all kinds of organizations like community-based organizations, community colleges, government, employers and corporate partners and foundations. So in terms of choosing local partners who we work with in our communities where we serve our students, we look at a couple of things. The first and foremost is alignment with our mission and alignment with our values, especially around being both data and outcome driven and being willing to learn together and take an iterative approach to continuously improving the program. Also, we look for our work together as being complementary so that both of us are bringing unique benefits to the partnership that can together create higher impact. So I'll give one example, which is an organization we work with called Job Train in East Palo Alto. And we just completed our very first pilot with them in our training cohort. They bring over 50 years of experience serving the local community. And they provided space, expertise in the community, and a real understanding of the challenges and needs, as well as instructors and students. And we brought our curriculum and our expertise in helping prepare people for the digital economy. Together, we learned a lot from the pilot, and we're super excited to deepen this partnership to eventually grow our relationship and create more impact together within East Palo Alto.
Thanks, Tess. The next question is for Shivani about Samahope, and how do you find the doctors in the communities where you work, Shivani?
Yeah, we get asked this question all the time. When we first started Samahope, we thought this might be a barrier to scale, finding really amazing doctors working in often really rural and remote locations. But quickly after launch, we realized that we were receiving a lot of inbound requests. So we get now today referrals from people who know of great organizations, great doctors, people who may have done some volunteer work, have come across them, as well as requests coming directly to us from doctors themselves wanting to be on our platform. All of this has been really validating to know that we're providing a valuable service and something that we manage on a weekly basis.
Thank you, Shivani. The question just came through our Google Hangouts, and it is for Samasource. Tony, a measure of income growth for Samasource workers is pretty clear, but can you talk about measuring the multiplier effect of that income growth?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think that one of the challenges that we face is that measuring that multiplier effect is a very complicated process and prone to subjectivity. What we can say, as Lila mentioned, is that our workers support on average 4 people in their families typically, and you can imagine that it's not a strong leap to say that that impacts 5 lives in general very quickly. And so, but we don't yet have the capability to scientifically or quantitatively with statistical accuracy give a hard number as to what the economic benefits and the multiplier effect of that increased wage is. We will continue to work on that, but until we refine our methodology and as a best practice, we will focus on what we can confirm and measure quantitatively as our benchmarks. We all understand that there's tremendous impacts across the board that are hard and intangible, but the multiplier effect should not be missed and we should continue to talk about that.
Thanks, Tony. This is Lila. I'm just gonna add another point here, which is that we do track household expenditures and how those change with this increased income. So we see increased expenditures on education, on healthcare, on safe housing, and on many of the other things that you would want to see in a development program. So that's hopeful news. I think this is a very complex area, this field of measuring the impact of workforce development. I'm going to answer one final question that we received, which is whether we've seen evidence of compromised safety of Samasource workers given some of the terrorist attacks or the missionary site attacks. We have not seen a huge problem around safety of the Samasource workers. I would say the number one problem is that many of them start working for us when they're living in informal settlements in places like slums in Nairobi, which are very unsafe places to live. So probably the best thing we can do is to increase their income such that they're able to secure housing outside of those dangerous environments. And I would imagine that statistically that proves the greatest threat to their safety. With that, we are about to close. So I'm going to first start by thanking our team for being here and sharing their learnings. Clearly, this is a group effort, and we're really lucky to have a very talented bunch of people. I also want to thank our donors and supporters for making our work possible. You are welcome to donate if you'd like to at samagroup.co. There are many calls to action on that page. And I just want to remind you of a couple of dates coming up. August 25th is the launch of samaschool.org. Please share that. It's a free class. We love to get data on how many people experience positive employment outcomes. It's essentially a free online class for online work. And remember that this call is part of a series. So the next one, if you'd like to tune in, will be on November 19th. And we'll be posting a YouTube recording of this call on our YouTube channel, on Facebook, and on the Google Hangout. And lastly, please email any feedback you have for topics we should cover next time, things you think we missed, things you think we could do better, and questions to Layla Toplik at layla.toplik@samagroup.co. You can also send questions to info@samagroup.co and we'll receive them. Thank you so much for joining, and take care.